Tonight is a crowdfunding launch for my new documentary called The God Molecule and the Shamanic Toad. And soon we're going to be hearing from some wonderful panel people behind us. And we're going to be talking about all things toad and also to do with the God molecule, which is 5-Meo DMT. So I'm sure a lot of you people here know about that, and you certainly will know more about it by the end of the night with some of the experts that we have behind us. So what I'm going to do to start off the night, and then we're going to go into a panel discussion with a few people here. Rak also is going to be, will show a clip from his new documentary series that he's already made one program from. So we'll show a clip of that, and then we'll have a bit more discussion, and then we'll have a bit of a break and have some dinner, and then come back on after that and show some other shamanic films. My other film, Shamans of the Amazon. We'll show that and some other clips too from Machu Picchu when we went, Ray and I went over to Machu Picchu a while ago. So quite a lineup tonight, and there'll probably be some opportunities to ask any questions of the panel too. So before I go too much further into it, I'm going to show my little promo clip that I've made for the Indiegogo campaign, the crowdfunding campaign. And also I'm running, I guess, two platforms. One is the Indiegogo platform, which a lot of people know for traditional crowdfunding. It's very successful. But also have set up like a personal crowdfunding page too, which is where this film is being streamed from, the godmoleculemovie.com, where people can just make a direct donation through PayPal and whatever. And I do give some rewards there, so you can see when you go to the platform, which I'll bring up later. You know, I give away quite a few things from the some previous films and CDs and Icaro chants and things like that. So I'll leave you to check that out later. So I'm going to show my clip. So I'm just going to do a screen share thing on. We're using Google Hangouts, so I'm just bring up a little thing here, and here we go.
Hi, my name is Dean Jeffries. I'm a documentary filmmaker, and I welcome all of you who feel called to support the making of a new documentary, The God Molecule and the Shamanic Toad. I've been an activist for change for most of my life, from peace camps in Iraq to oil mining in the Amazon, rainforest blockades in Sarawak, wild growth forest protests in Australia, uranium mining, nuclear warship visits, drug law reform, politics, vaccinations, fluoridation, global warming. We all know the issues, and many, I'm sure, have also been on these front lines. Like many activists, I'm tired of putting out spot fires and fighting rearguard battles. I believe that to bring about lasting and fundamental change, humans need to deepen their relationship with nature. And this shift in consciousness needs to occur very quickly if we're to survive as a species. 15 years ago, I made the groundbreaking documentary called Shamans of the Amazon. It's about a ritual focused around the use of divine ayahuasca. Ayahuasca helps people deepen their relationship with nature and themselves. In the last 15 years, ayahuasca has had a huge transformational effect in many people's lives as it has emerged from the jungles into the West. Last year, I was introduced to an experience that totally transformed my relationship to everything and gave me faith that a quantum shift in consciousness was possible. Dr. Octavio Reti invited me to smoke the venom from the Sonora Desert toad. I believe that with proper use of this sacred molecule from the toad, there is the potential to crack the old paradigm matrix and effect a massive transformation of consciousness on an individual and global level.
When you can take the full dose of the Bufo and Meo, you basically have an experience of ecstatic surrender or bliss, cosmic oneness.
It was this merging back to where I felt like I had come from as a soul, which was God.
There's no you there. There's no subject. There's a loss of subject object.
No ego.
No ego. No you at all.
It's opening up the top chakra, Sahasrara, the 1,000-petaled lotus, and one cannot, one's ego cannot exist within that realm. So for many people that I've observed, it's either the most ecstatic, orgasmic experience they've ever had, analogous to a samadhi experience in the Hindu tradition, or it's absolutely, abjectly terrifying.
People should be very careful.
It was like bungee jumping into the mind of God, because it was as far as he could go and come back.
And I thought I must have died, that this couldn't happen to somebody and come back. You cannot go further than this into the bardo and return.
Very quickly, within 5 seconds or 10 seconds, into white out, and I basically left my body. When you get out of your body and into the energetic, vibrational, akashic field of the divine, it is all love. So I've tangibly felt that 100th monkey syndrome happen. And the question is, if enough people strategically cohese together into a Greek colony organism across the planet in 5-MeO vibrational space, they could lay down a energetic encasement, some type of circuit board on the astral, which would then be felt by the rest of humanity.
Soon I plan to travel to Mexico to meet the toad, and then return to the Amazon to meet the Sequoia tribe, who use a leaf containing 5-MeO DMT in their ayahuasca brew. So welcome to everyone that's about to jump on board and support the making of this groundbreaking documentary that I truly believe has the potential to change the path of human evolution. To quote the visionary Terence McKenna, something could jump out from some unexpected dimension and change everything.
Okay. Light, Julie, thanks. Okay, so that's just a little taste of what the film's about, but it's going to be obviously a lot more than that. That's just some of the interviews. Rack, Darps, Daniel Pinchbeck. I plan to interview some of the shamans in the Amazon as well, who use the 5-MeO DMT in their snuff ritual and also in their Yahe ritual, which is like ayahuasca. And I'm trusting Danny's going to give a little bit more of a talk about that a bit later. So I might open it up a little bit now and join the panel over here. We have microphone. Is that mic on? Right. No. Right. I'll just turn it on here now. What about that? Okay. Yep. That got it?
Yep.
Beautiful. Okay. So, yep, we're still streaming live. So, let's start. Yeah. Okay. Yep, we got that. Great. So, so my world completely changed along with I think there's some others who have experienced it before. We had a visit from a Mexican shaman last year and experienced this toad venom which is 5-MeO DMT. Now, I don't know, there's probably a lot of people here who are familiar with ayahuasca and the admix plant that goes with ayahuasca, which is the leaf usually from the chacruna plant, which is NN-DMT. So this, the venom from the toad is 5-MeO DMT. So it's just a little bit different from the brew that normally goes into the ayahuasca brew. Even though it's just a little tweak, the effect is quite dramatic. And it took me a little while to land after experiencing this ritual, but after that, I felt that it was time to make another documentary about this medicine. I made the film Shamans of the Amazon about 20 years ago, before ayahuasca was really a household word. And at that point, there was people that were just starting to take it, but they didn't know the context really that it was to be taken in. So I went to the shamans and I experienced the rituals and talked to them about a lot of those issues, and then made that documentary. And I think that helped to set a bit of a foundation for, the movement, or people who are interested in ayahuasca could go to that film and, use it nearly like a stepping stone to the ritual itself. So they had some background of the cultural use. So that's one reason why I want to make this film as well, the God Molecule and Shamanic Toad, because this medicine is just starting to come out to the West at the moment. And I think it's important that people understand a little bit about it before they even think about trying it, because it really isn't for everyone. And I'm sure the other panel speakers will confirm that this is not a recreational sport. It's actually a very extreme initiation, and not for the light-hearted. And you really need to have a strong calling if you are going to even contemplate going there. But I feel that I mentioned a little bit in that documentary that in the promo that what happens is we access an energy which I believe is coming down onto the planet at the moment, and that energy is able to have profound effects individually, but also I think crack. The way I see it is like a dark encasement over the planet, and every time someone experiences this ritual direct connection to the light or God or whatever you want to call it, then we open up this encasement around the planet and let new vibrations of energy come down onto the planet, which can have a transformational effect on an individual, but also on a global level. Now, there's lots of speakers here who have some great experience and who can express that experience probably better than I can, because it's virtually ineffable. But I just want to start off, Rack. Just if you could just tell us a little bit about first your documentary series, which we're going to show a clip soon, but maybe we'll do that a little bit later. Just talk about how you got introduced to 5-MeO, and see if you can explain what happens when we experience this ritual, and what are the possible ramifications for change on a global consciousness level. Like, is this just a dream of mine, or do you think it's actually possible?
All things are possible, Dean, all things. Firstly, congratulations on getting back into, well, you've been doing documentaries for the whole 20 years in Shamans of the Amazon, but to be jumping back into the shamanic documentary realm, because it is such an exciting time, and there is such movement, I guess, in the medicines coming to the people, and the people having transformation. And I think that is really the best way forward in the planetary emergency that we find ourselves in at the moment, which is to a large part constructed by, Western civilized consciousness and all the issues around that. These tools of the entheogens in general give us an ability to know ourselves, and find correct relationship through them with the planet itself and with the larger, I'm going to say galactic ecology, in Byron Bay. To find right relationship and to find place. So there's a lot of questions there. My first experience with 5-MeO was actually documented in the film Higher Awakenings, if anyone's seen that, my own shamanic documentary. And it was 10 years ago this June that I innocently went along to Ron Wheelock's Gringo shaman in Peru. And he was working with Dr. Juan Acosta, who was a electroencephalography neuroscientist getting brain scans on people. And, there's 30 chapters in my book, Higher Awakenings, and it was almost a 3-month journey, and it was mainly about ayahuasca. But I almost stopped the whole journey right then and there and just wanted to continue to do 5-MeO. But it was such a powerful experience. It was really, it was legal at that time, globally, and it was such a deeper experience. It seemed to sort of really be the on switch to, well, not just the spiritual realm. If people have done other entheogens like ayahuasca or psilocybin or San Pedro cactus, there's so many diverse planetary entheogens that nature herself secretes to bring us back into relationship. It's been explained to me over the years, I picked up this little shorthand, that all the entheogens can be akin to baubles on the Christmas tree, which maybe is like the tree of life. And the 5-MeO DMT is like the star at the top of the Christmas tree, or the light. And it really does seem to be the just such an incredibly powerful experience, so much so that it can be really difficult, as you say, it's ineffable to put into words, but it is a somatic body experience. There's a little bit of scientific research done on that angle, looking how it may help flush the body clean, like God's factory reset, and bring, help flush out blockages, tumors, even cancers, things like that. But that seems to me to be a flow-through effect from its main sort of psychic drive and its connecting point. And it's really hard not to use words like God or unity or the source or, unified field or whatever language you have. Every culture seems to have a language for this, and they're all applicable. I've seen in the last 18 months to 2 years, many people go through 5-MeO DMT. Between my first experience in 2006 in the film and 2015, I didn't do 5-MeO DMT because it wasn't time. It was so strong, it was so powerful, I didn't want to just dabble in it. Not that I ever recreationally just do things, but I wanted to have the right container and the right context. And interestingly enough, there's been this incredible blossoming and snowballing of shamanic culture as it matures, and people are doing multiple entheogens, not necessarily at the same time, but there seems to be a grooming or a path or a maturation of the culture and its ability to integrate and accept what comes next. And so the light, I really believe, is the next thing. And as Dean said, there is an opportunity for people to know themselves, to go deep, and then in that change to really connect. Because the interesting thing about 5-MeO DMT, and to a degree NN-DMT as well, unlike most of the other entheogens, these substances occur endogenously in our brain. So Dean had a little subtitle on my little explanation in his promo clip. I founded an NGO called Terra Incognita Project.org, which is exploring tryptamines and especially 5-MeO DMT, because it is still legal in many countries in the world, and we can research this scientifically. And so one of my current interests with the work I do, both in media and documenting and researching in my own spiritual path at the moment, after 10 years of first being introduced to 5-MeO DMT, is to help facilitate the growth and exploration of this culture and what we can do collectively to make change, and to change not just our consciousness, but perhaps the frequency that we're holding, and how we can explore both science and shamanism and what I call neuro-shamanism to anchor these modalities and anchor the endogenous exploration of what nature has given us with 5-MeO DMT. And now I'll throw it over to someone else. Anyone?
Thank you. Thanks, Dean, for keeping the fires burning. You guys do sound like a snake oil salesman. I mean, toad skin salesman. And I do have to disagree with you in that you said it's not for the light-hearted. For the light of heart, it is actually exactly designed for the light of heart. It's a strange world when, you know, what we're looking at is just a physical realm, and the introduction through this neurochemistry is into all these other unseen realms, which you could easily compare with, you know, your own home, you know, laptop at home, and the data and information you have on there compared to, you know, going online and all of a sudden finding out there's whole worlds and worlds and worlds, and it's a similar type of setup. You know, you may find out that you live within a particular culture in a physical 3D realm, and then one day, you know, you find out that you've got a modem and you go online and all of a sudden there's a lot out there, and that's humbling. But in terms of the seen and the unseen world, it seems that science has had a big struggle trying to, because it's attributed intelligence to brain size, humans have difficulty in imagining the intelligence of nature, be they plants or bees for that matter, and have put it all down to this idea of instinct. And yet, what we find time and time again is not only is nature intelligent, but it's super intelligent. And, you know, the toad has got such a bad rap, especially in Australia, because the toads that are hopping up and down the eastern seaboard here are Bufo marinus, which came originally from the jungles of the Amazon. And where when you see them in the jungle, you know, they're obviously at home, but, you know, after seeing them all through Australia, you know, they very quickly they're making themselves at home. But what are they doing here? You know, if there aren't any mistakes, and if you go into these realms and you recognize that there is this interconnectivity, then the idea of a mistake is way more of the human mind than of God's mind, so to speak. And so there's some people who believe that the planet in relatively recent history was much smaller than it is. And instead of there being a whole bunch of continents floating around and joined together in Gondwana land or Pangaea, that then spread apart on the planet, that remained the same size, there was an idea that at one stage the Earth was much smaller, and all the continents actually joined together. So it's easy to see how South America and Africa were once joined along that Atlantic ridge. It's not as easy to see on the Pacific side, and yet if you shrink the world, you'll see all the continents fit together perfectly. And so there's this idea of an expanding Earth. But just to contextualize that, this eastern seaboard of Australia used to butt up against Central and South America. And to this, the idea of this theory was that wasn't even that long ago. And so the toads, this is kind of almost like a homecoming for the toads coming here. But what are they doing? What are they bringing? You know, Dean referred to in their parotid glands, which are these big glands on the back of their neck. They have these venoms, but they're not necessarily venoms. They're a type of neurochemistry. And it just so happens the toad that's hopping up and down the eastern seaboard, this Bufo marinus, which is different, by the way, to this toad that's been used in the desert, Sonoran desert toad, which is Bufo alvirus. What they have in their parotid glands, the one that's hopping up here is something called bufotenine, which is poisonous to most animals, but it's actually psychoactive to humans. And that's interesting in and of itself. But the plant medicine that the Sequoia and the Shuar and tribes all the way up through into Colombia use is actually a plant mixture called yahe, which is different to ayahuasca. Even though it uses the same vine, the Banisteriopsis vine, as the MAO inhibitor, the tryptamine or the dimethyltryptamine component comes from another vine, Diplopteris caverana, or the yahe vine. And the interesting thing about it is it has 5-MeO DMT and bufotenine in it. And so, and it's quite a lot more powerful and distinct to ayahuasca. The missionaries used to call it the dog's ayahuasca simply because they would drink it and invariably be crawling around in the mud begging for mercy. It was that powerful. And so I guess what I'm doing is I'm bringing into perspective this idea that the toads themselves, we're seeing as a physical, the physical body of the toad, but the spiritual energetic body is like this vast, intelligent being. And it takes us quite a long time as humans to recognize that the creatures that we see in the physical world, that's only one small aspect of their being. Most of their being is a larger, more resplendent spiritual organism. And I think I'll get into it in the next little rave, is that the neurochemistry, these things like DMT and 5-MeO DMT and serotonin are actually ubiquitous all through nature, and all the beings in nature all use them for the same purpose. In other words, there's serotonin in plants, there's serotonin in microbes, there's serotonin in animals, and there's serotonin in humans. And that serotonergic pathways are used for the same thing. That's a specific type of awareness. And this, what you're calling venom, that occurs in the Bufo virus, the 5-MeO DMT, is used as a very powerful pathway to a very specific, let's call it bardo or state, but it's not just used by humans, it's used by all of nature to connect in. And we'll talk about that more.
I just want to introduce Joelle. Does a lot of work with the energy of flowers. And I just wondered, Joelle, if you could give a little bit of a, I guess what your feeling is about your own experience, but also how you feel the toad can have an effect in changing consciousness on this planet.
Right. Yeah, so I am super blessed to have journeyed to Mexico last year with Rack and crew, and been part of this amazing ceremony in Mexico with some Seri elders on this beautiful land, having, quite an indescribable journey. And as well as answering your question, Dean, about like global consciousness, I feel quite called to point out, as Darpan said, this medicine may not be for everyone now, and along with the amazing excitation of this portal technology comes very human integration, I guess. And myself having had that experience and also being witness to others, it's a massive journey to go from this little big being to everything, and having that egoless totally dissolved into oneness state, and then coming back into this little fractal of the whole, and then how you integrate that. For myself, it's been quite a quite a roller coaster ride, and I would strongly recommend anyone considering this medicine to leave a lot of integration time post ceremony. The ceremony is easy, really, because there's no choice, there's no ego, you're just there. But then how we integrate that, how we hold and walk with that knowing in ourselves is the biggest ceremony. So yeah, I share your dreaming. I definitely share your vision that having had direct experience of that state of oneness, not as a theory, not as a yeah, I guess on a human level as a fleeting moment, but very, very eternal moments within that bardo, within that state. I can't imagine not, well, it totally shifted my personal experience, and I can imagine how that's affecting the noosphere, the group consciousness there. Like with all entheogens, that reminder of the divinity and the interconnectedness of all, to get such a strong, what was your irrefutably dissolving, melting absolute oneness, to actually feel that somatically in your body, to move that and to embody that as you come back from there to here, or from here to here to here, is definitely going to change things for the better. Yeah, blessings on your endeavor. Thank you for sharing this with more people.
And thanks, Charlie. It's interesting that I see that the toad is going to have just the effect that happens with people on individual level. I see the toad is going to have a really large effect on bringing that change. And my role in that, I believe, is with the documentary, is to let people know that this change is happening, which I think will give more power to that change. You know, when people know that, I guess it's really like if you knew that your neighbour was talking to someone from Alpha Centauri, and it was really happening, that there was a connection happening with an alien, then that would help, I guess, other people to be able to see the frequency or the vibration of that alien energy. I don't know if that's a good analogy or not. But yeah, I like to believe that we can create whatever reality we want on this planet, and if we can think it and see it and vision it, then we can create it. I just want to ask Dan if you wouldn't mind giving a little bit of I guess a trip report in a way from some of the sequoias. You talked about the Yahe experience that the sequoias have, and I guess I've got two motives here. One is to hear about it, because I'd love to hear about it, because I'm planning to go and see the sequoias in about a month and a half when I raise another $8,000 to get my ticket and to go on this journey down to the sequoias. There's also an opportunity for other people as well to join me on this trip with Sparrow, who I met during the making of Shamans of the Amazon. So yeah, I just want to hear a little bit more about that, about your experience and what makes the Yahe and the sequoia special.
Thanks, Steve. Yeah, so, trying not to press the point too much. Being able to describe the indescribable. I think you know, Timothy Leary, when he brought mushrooms back from Oaxaca, you know, I think it was to MIT or Harvard, yeah, and he wanted to give them to the psych department, you know, and he managed to convince half the psych department to take the mushrooms. And what quickly happened was the people who had taken the mushrooms recognized that a lot of the psychological concepts that they were learning about were real. They got to experience them firsthand. And a chasm opened up of communication between the are you experienced and the are you not experienced. And so the people who had taken the mushrooms could talk about these concepts as if they were real. And the other part of the psych department was talking about them as if it was something conceptual. And this is the problem with the psychoactive journey in and of itself, is that unless you've kind of dropped in and had that life-changing experience of meeting yourself or meeting the divine, it's not really that easy to explain, which is why we have art. You know, when you're trying to explain the unexplainable, you use color, you use sound, you use movement. Art is the human's attempt to express this numinous. Now, with the Sequoia, as a group of people who drink Yahe, for those people, for anyone here who's interested, Sparrow, who Dean just mentioned, he's written a book called Rainforest Medicine, and it's an incredible story of the Sikupai and the Sequoia. And the Sequoia had a relationship with another tribe up till quite recently, I think a couple of 100 years ago. And this tribe is called the Heavenly People, and they used to live on this planet, and they actually left. And when they left a communication device, and this was the Yahe. And so they told the Sequoia, look, we're going to leave the planet now in our, you know, in physical form, but whenever you want to communicate with us, you just drink this Yahe and we'll appear. And to this day, that's what they do. They drink the Yahe, the Heavenly People appear, and they sing to them in their language. And then they then guide them through this labyrinth of realms, because according to the Sequoia, there's so many realms and they're so kind of labyrinthian that you can get lost, and you could get lost for lifetimes. And so that's why they like to do their ritual in a very specific, organized way, guided by the Heavenly People. And drinking Yahe with the Sequoia is, I wouldn't compare it to ayahuasca. It's like a whole different world, but it's definitely on a level of profundity with the toad. And so the connecting factor, of course, is this incredible neurochemical, this 5-MeO DMT and the bufotenine. They're actually synergistic. Our culture likes to boil it down to molecules, you know, something we can look at and go, well, that's it over there. That's the 5-MeO. But of course, it's way more complex than this. And so my personal experience with the toads started off maybe 25 years ago when I was living in London, and I'd heard about these toads, the Colorado River toads, and there happened to be a guy who was breeding them, you know, 20 minutes drive away, and I went and picked up a couple of these toads, and they lived in my, you know, in the apartment that I was living in was like this old converted barn, and I had these toads hopping around. And, you know, of course, at first we kind of like were wondering how to do this, you know, squeeze their little kind of parotid glands. And it was like kind of squeezing a pimple. They would shoot out this like white pussy stuff, wow, and catching it on pieces of glass and scraping it up and smoking it. And, you know, I remember thinking at the time, because I was quite open to, you know, things like, you know, take some mushrooms or some LSD or some mescaline, but this was a whole new level. You know, when you told your friends, oh, you've been squeezing toads onto glass and smoking it, the guys who were out there looked at you like, yeah, right, what have you been up to? But again, it was this amazing idea of venturing into this place that was indescribable to people who hadn't been there. And what I did notice was I'd only actually smoked them once, because as soon as I smoked them, smoked the toad, having the living beings there with me, they immediately explained that you didn't need to smoke them. You know, that you could just talk to them and they could start to transmit this in a much softer, gentler way in your dreams. And of course, me living with them, that was my experience over the next few years. They literally change, how do you say that, the texture of light. So people coming to visit would go, you know, you could see them walk in and look around and go, wow, this is an interesting place. It was as if the toads were actually shifting the veil between this dimension and another dimension. And walking into that, you can palpably feel that, whether you were high or not. And I think, you know, just watching your the little clip that you had before for your Indiegogo campaign, and listening to Rack talking about this concept of as each one of us becomes part of the neurocircuitry of the planet, as we upgraded by nature, whether it's plants or vines or toads or mushrooms, Gaia or the planet takes over our nervous system and plugs us into the bigger nervous system for some other part. And once there's a certain amount of people plugged in and we've created this next level of circuitry, it means it's just that much easier for other people to plug in. So being on this forefront is a big responsibility, because you're offering your nervous system to a greater functionality of the planet's nervous system. And this is what I think is going on with this neurochemistry. And so my challenge to anyone is befriend a toad, at least. Even the toads down here, don't buy into this idea of having to go on a toad killing spree, because we actually have no idea what we're doing. These toads are incredible, intelligent, deep spiritual beings, just like us. And so I would encourage everyone to have a deep relationship.
Kiss a toad.
Kiss a toad. Kiss a toad. And you know, if you want, like I said, if you want to start off without going through the toad and you want to go the plant route, then there is this incredible medicine all through the Amazon called Yahe, and it is amazing. And you know, again, it rewires you. It enables you to see dimensions, divine dimensions that, you know, the beautiful thing about this is it's instantly like coming home. It's not like going into a dimension going, wow, this is kind of like Avatar, you know, where you're seeing all this crazy stuff that you go, wow, that's pretty wild vision. But this is really like coming home. And I think that's probably the most powerful numinous experience, is that it is just like having an experience of seeing the world through the eyes of when you were just born, you know, and you're looking at everything without any filters of judgment, any filters of ideas of what's right or wrong or good or bad. You're just in this pure perceptive awareness. And I think once you've had that experience, it's very difficult to back out, very difficult to forget that experience again. And so, yeah, sorry to sound a bit like a salesman here, but yeah, for people who are interested, tune in with Dean. Sparrow takes people to visit the Sequoia all the time. And, you know, the last handful of elder Sequoia shaman on the planet, you know, The guy I drank with 10 years ago was a guy called Don Cesario. He was 100 and, I mean, he was 96, he's 106 now. You know, his nephew was 77. He had been drinking himself since he was 8. So, you know, over 100 years of experience just with one person right there. It's hard to explain. And so imagine sitting in a circle with these two guys with between them had, you know, over 150 years of experience in these realms. And so you really feel like, you know, supported.
I just want to get a little bit more from Rack about just what you imagine is possible with this medicine as a part of a global consciousness transformational tool. How do you see that happening, if you do see it happening at all, and how is it possible?
Sounds like the last question.
Tried reading.
Well, I'd like to thank Dan for pointing out that we all sound like salespeople up here, but you know, it's a privilege and an awkward position because, as you say, you know, maybe if you haven't experienced this, maybe you have some experience with a complementary modality, another entheogen, or meditation, yoga, tantra. There's many, many pathways, and maybe to tie in a little bit of things other panelists have said. This isn't for everyone, but it is happening to everyone, and not just through the toad. And your film is also talking about the God molecule 5-Meo DMT, in the sense that because it is endogenous, it's like you know, nature's building this backdoor access. It's like, you know, the divine NSA watching us all, and it's coming through us. And this, you know, my film's called Eye Awakening, and this awakening term is quite popular, I guess, in New Age type circles at the moment, but it's a verb. It's a verb, and it's an active dynamic process, which I believe is happening all around the planet. And I think it's part of the cosmic season we are in that this flowering of consciousness, and as Dan said, through the tryptamines and 5-MeO and the serotonin, things like that, it's been built in there by nature. And there's a larger Gaian mind, and then there's a galactic mind, and there's a universal mind, and then there's the source. And, you know, all of the galaxies are like pinpricks. You look at the stars at night, but it's like this neural network. If you've ever seen those pictures on the net, it's very, very similar. And nature, as above, so below, replicates the way it conserves and spends energy in creating these structures, basically, you know, for communication. And so the tryptamines, especially as Dan was saying, seem to be this backdoor access, which is directly built in to connect us all the time, but then also to really widen and deepen and open at certain critical junctures in a species maturation. So, you know what I've realized over the years, that I've got a lot of my memes off Dan and listening to Dan, and we've had these conversations, and the Sequoia chat as well. And I remember you talking about the Sequoia and the heavenly people. And, you know, I did 5-MeO DMT with the toad with Octavio Rettig, the Mexican shaman who came to Australia last year. And in the first time, and I've only had this very rarely happen in ayahuasca, anything anywhere similar of tangible presence of presences of entities. In this sense, I have to use the words ancestors. And again, it was like an all expansive blossoming into this white void of unconditional love. And again, this is just words until you tangibly have your own experience. But whether that's through a toad pathway, the chemical 5-MeO pathway, the Yahe pathway, endogenous pathway through meditation or other activation, it's nature's pathway. They're all nature's pathways to bring us back home. It's like we're looking at it from the wrong direction of the mirror, you know? It's like it's what's coming through, the larger us, from source into the material world, into all its creation. And I feel that this is the time when this on switch is blossoming, and that perhaps, you know, the whole 20th century psychedelic revolution was just a kick-starting us back into altered states to get us ready for the plant entheogens. And the plant entheogens, no matter which one they are, seem to predominantly be healing people and cleansing them to then be unified energetic bodies to be able to receive the light, which is within, which is all coming to fruition at the right time in this macrocosmic orbit, you know, as the world ages change. So for me, I think this is all happening at the right time. And when we say it's not for everyone, but it is happening to everyone. And it can be endogenous, it can be through whatever. All through history, mystics and other people have had spontaneous spiritual experiences because they had cleaner vibrational fields, cleaner bodies with no GMOs, no EMFs, no three-letter acronyms out there that modern culture has. You know, but we were in nature, we were receptive, we were open. So the plant medicines, I think, have spent the last few decades of recent contact in the West, and they're still doing a very good job, and ayahuasca predominantly amongst them as it really gets out into the mainstream world, of letting people know that there's these plant entheogens and helping them heal in preparation for this next step, which has happened before. So when I took the medicine last year with Octavia already, I had in the white light, as I came back, 5 seconds gone, about 10 seconds in, came back enough to realize I was surrounded by, it felt like 4 curandero wizened ancient shamans who were singing, and I couldn't see them, but I could feel them as like silhouettes, and it's almost like the heavenly beings, the star people. And that made me realize when they were like, yes, yes, and they were holding me tangibly on that astral level to witness and to remember going into and becoming the light, that I was the light. And it was so beautifully supportive to have ancestors. And that made me realize over time in integrating this is, what if this is, you know, part of the species blossoming? What if this is our natural birthright to get to this point in evolution with all the planetary emergency, with all the crisis and all the shit we've had to go through to blossom? And in that blossoming, to be met by the others who have gone before. Now, this is just a story I'm telling you, but what if there's a possibility? It's worth exploring. You know, it's worth practicing and anchoring and receiving the message which was continually being broadcast from source all throughout everything, everywhere, you know, with the tryptamines in nature, in all the species as our receiving instruments. And so I feel this is happening. I feel this is part of the shamanic revolution going across the planet and the awakening process. And that really, all we really have to do is say yes in whatever form is right for you.
Yes!
Thank you. I feel very blessed to have some very clear minds on this panel. And it sort of feels a little bit strange where I want to go a little bit now in introducing the political system, which seems so foreign to this whole experience, you know. You know, just recently we've had, you know, the drug and alcohol, what is it, the TGA has been looking at whether they should legalise DMT and ayahuasca for religious purposes. That inquiry is in the in Canberra corridors at the moment. We're, you know, talking about whether to legalise this or not. And I guess, you know, we've been running an underground operation here for a while, but you know, ayahuasca is now, you know, it's in a lot of Hollywood movies. It's, you know, it's you know, people, you know, it's in The Guardian, it's in the newspaper. SBS did a story on it last week. So it is coming into mainstream, and that was one of the reasons why I made Shamans of the Amazon. It's another reason why I want to make this new film, The God Molecule and the Shamanic Toad, to give a clear perspective. So it's not just 60 minutes showing a shot of someone screaming laying on the ground. There's actually, you know, there's context. You know what's going on. You know? So that's one of my reasons for making this film. And with that, I want to introduce the next speaker, Ray Thorpe, who's been a dear friend. Senator Ray Thorpe, soon to be Senator Ray Thorpe, who is running for the Free Cannabis Drug Law Reform Party, and you can tick his box tomorrow. that was one of the reasons why I sort of crammed it into this night, was to get it before the elections, because I think, although I believe that change isn't necessarily going to come from the political system, it's another tool, and I commend Ray for, you know, having the testicles to enter that world, you know, because it's a lion's den, and you know, I take my hat off to you for doing that. So with that, I want to hand the microphone over to Ray, and actually later on, I'm going to show a little video of when Ray came with me to Peru, and we did some ayahuasca in San Pedro, at Machu Picchu and the Sacred Valley. So we're going to show a little bit of that as well. And if Ray gets into the Senate, or when Ray gets into the Senate, I might sell that video clip to 60 Minutes.
Imagine a whole bunch of fish wondering, you know, voting on whether to legalize water.
Exactly. Thank you for your support. I was at Kona Hall the other night at the Mayor gig, and I said to a friend, you know, I think I represent the tribe, you know, and we all know, I can look around and I say, you know what we mean by the tribe, because we all have tribal values. And I said, everybody would vote for me, but the problem is nobody here votes. So if I don't get in now, you know why. And when I mentioned it to a city slicker, I didn't realise the difference between us living up here in the Northern Rivers to city people, because he really attacked me. What do you mean by the tribe? You know, because I realised then he was representing city thinking and couldn't understand what I meant by tribal values, which are human values. And, you know, I am not a politician, but I've stood, as most of you know, for herbal freedom, forming things like Plant Freedom Alliance, etc. But I was really taken. I feel just such esteemed company. I love you guys. I love all you guys, actually. And I feel honoured to be able to speak. But I remember when I first started off in my quest and was, you know, looking at ayahuasca, I think you'd already made your movie, and I thought, there are herbs all over the planet that heal people, but there's different herbs, like in India, Ayurvedic herbs, Chinese herbs are totally different to ours, you know. We're grown up in the Western, or I should say European culture of herbs, but European herbs don't grow here. But of course, before that, the indigenous ancestors got through with their herbs that have all been lost because of us. Nevertheless, there's North American herbs, and what I think of the Garden of Eden, I'm really sure if there is a Garden of Eden, it must be South America. So I'm thinking, well, why is there ayahuasca? I can remember thinking, why is there ayahuasca, this healing herb, you know, the spiritually healing herb coming from South America, and it doesn't exist here? Then one of our friends, who you would all know, presented me with DMT from the wattle tree. And I went, aha. So all of these entheogens exist all over the world, and they're not here by accident, because that was my big puzzle. Why have they only got it in South America? You know? So, and of course, out of the Northern Rivers, I don't know how many lives have been changed, probably more than ayahuasca has reached, and that is what I call dream time, and an associate called Changa. And I'm really interested when I go to America. I hear people talking about Changa, and I go, that came out of the Northern Rivers. So much so that when Changa got to Holland and Amsterdam and went round to the head shops around there, that it was quite a shock to the Dutch authorities, and they got on to Interpol and through here to the feds here and said, you've got to stop this hallucinogenic drug that's coming out of Australia. Then there was a big clampdown. You know, most of you know the secret courts of Star Chamber that I was dragged into, that most Australians would not know, certainly not the cityfied Australians, that there are secret courts here where any of us can be dragged in just because of a telephone connection to somebody who might be dealing in a natural substance. And you know, I guess when I was raided for ephedra, and I don't want to talk for hours, otherwise I will sound like a politician, but when I was raided for ephedra, and my partner at the time, her panty drawers were all searched looking for drugs, and what they were looking for was ephedra, the Chinese herb that cures asthma, which actually takes asthma away, it fixes asthma. I became then, I guess, a herbal warrior, and I have been ever since. And I realised that you can go to jail, and I have been in court so many times. I've even been in jail temporarily, again over ephedra. And I've been in the secret court over a natural substance, again coming from the wattle tree, another entheogen that, without sitting down and logically thinking about it, when the opportunity arose that I was asked by Greg Chibb to stand for the Drug Law Reform Party. I said, no way, no way. And then he came up with a brilliant logo, but I just naturally fell into that position because I think that the only way, or one of the ways, apart from protesting, but even now the New South Wales government, as you know, have made it against the law to protest. I'm in denial with that. I think we're all in denial because I think there will be great revolts, coming great revolutions perhaps, because we've got to stand up, because the only right that we have as people is to stand up against laws that are wrong. And the only way that I can see, and we're all responsible for what we do on this planet, and if we can make change, and in my case, I feel that I can make a change by being in the Senate and blocking these awful laws that they try to pass. In their ignorance a lot of times. They just don't know. But also, I want to stand up not only for drug law reform, but plant law reform. These entheogens are meant for us. And if people, I was just thinking before, if some of these city people could hear our learned friends speaking now, they probably think we're off the planet already, but all of us are here because we understand the learning. I know my own self, the wrinkles that have been taken out of my personality because of these entheogens, and probably more so the mushrooms, the little teachers. But nevertheless, I look back to where I was 20 years ago before I've taken these entheogens, and I am embarrassed about the way I acted towards other people, the way I thought, etc. I just know that DMT in particular has taken away my fear of dying, my fear of anything, my ability to be able to stand up for the Senate, you've got no idea when you put your head up like that, how you get shot down. The stuff that's been fired at me, there's a lot of nutters out there. And it's not an easy game, politics, at all, but however, I'm ready. So if you want to vote for me, please do. Number 1 in the Senate.
Thanks, Ray. So anyone who doesn't know, you got a question?
I just wanted to mention I went and pre-poll voted, and I almost ticked 1 for Ray in the hemp party. I saw hemp party, and I just was so excited that I was going to be voting for Ray. So I just know that there's the hemp party and there's the drug law reform. Right. And Ray is representing the drug law reform. And you'll find him over on the right-hand side of the long piece of paper.
I know for a fact I
explain
would have got him for sure, because I was looking for that donkey vote. I was looking for people who are for medical cannabis, and I've always been for medical cannabis, don't get me wrong, but now I am passionately for medical cannabis. And if I don't get in, I am putting all my resources into getting medical cannabis in, after seeing a young boy I know who, I'll put it crudely, should have been put down, because he was just like this and just screaming out in agony all of the time, in pain. And then because of the rally, I think these things seem to be meant. I feel as you guys are sitting there, we are in the right time at the right place. And this is the time for change. And for me, I was influenced because I saw a kid who I didn't recognize, because he was clapping to music. He was really interested in loving life. And then the mother came up and introduced herself. And I went, oh, that's your job from 3 years ago. She said, yeah, he was dying. he was dying back then. And as a last resort, we tried CBD, and as a last resort, and then even his fractures in his legs were healing. And the doctors were going, we can't even find the fractures, what's going on? She says, I can't tell them, because if I tell them he's under medical cannabis, he'll be taken away from her. I'm going, what? Because I haven't been, confronted with this reality. And she said, and taken away from me. And I go, what? And just then Channel 7 came up to do an interview. And I went, and she's going, no, I can't. I said, you've got to. It was like I was meant to be there, because she did. And now she's had about 400,000 views, and they've really influenced people, but not only influenced people, influenced me. Because if I don't get in, I am pushing for medical cannabis, because I realise the suffering that these drug laws are causing, the suffering that the pharmaceutical companies, I see them as criminal cartels who are only interested in money. They're not interested in health. They are interested in addictive chemicals, There's herbs out there, and where, I try to tell people that golden staph can be, in some cases, cured by another Amazon herb, of course, Sangre de Gria, croton, liquid bandage, dragon's blood. And I've seen it. I saw it at an Exodus festival. We gave it to this woman who had it all growing out. She was like freaking out. Doctors couldn't help her, hospital couldn't help, and it's spreading. And within the 3 days of the festival, it disappeared. So I waited and waited, because I know you're not allowed to make claims. So eventually, when I'm aware, and I will predict it now, that within even my lifetime, our biggest threat is not ISIS. Our biggest threat is all of the super bugs, because of our abuse of antibiotics. I still can't believe it. My mum was prescribed an antibiotic for flu, because she was going away, and the doctor said, here's an antibiotic to prevent a flu. And so anyway, I won't rave on about that. But anyway, so I thought I'd put it up on our website, just to reveal the fact that there is something that will get rid of golden staph. And straight away I was shot down by this bloody TGA you mentioned before, the Therapeutic Goods Administration, or I'd like to say association, because they are associated with pharmaceutical companies. They're, I'm sure, paid off. They're buddies, Anyway, I was shot down. I was not only had to get it off the website for 6 months, we have to apologise for abusing the trust of our customers. This great big banner that we had to have for 6 months. And to add insult to injury, then I was told that at the end of 6 months, they will consider the penalty that I would receive for speaking my truth. And I was outraged. I wanted to speak out more, but they must have known in advance, because they said, and if you mention this, you're in deeper trouble. So what I'm telling you now, I'm not allowed to even tell you. And at that particular time, that's the truth. Now, I know they're there, or they've got to stop charlatans who take advantage of, cancer cures that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. But this Croton bottle that does about 100 serves is $20. Why would somebody make lies for $20? Well, the profit $5. It's just, anyway, they don't want cures to be out there. We know that. They've banned apricot kernels now. No matter what governments are saying about CBD, Baird, who I respected when he first got in, is just a two-faced bastard, because he says he's for medical cannabis. He's not at all. They've increased their drug testing, and I only learned today that top police are involved in the drug testing kits, the manufacture of, and it's just like, what? And these drug testing kits are unfair, but we do have an antidote for them. You can get it in the chemist called Biotine. I carry it very close to me. My girlfriend is all ready to go into the glove box and pull it out so I can have a sweet. And the other one is anise myrtle, an Australian product. You swill your mouth with anise myrtle and you can overcome this. This is what we've got to do, because when laws are wrong, we've got to stand up. And I first got involved with Dean because I've always admired him is a marvelous, wonderful activist and has always stood up. I've seen him carried out by by police out of various places, and he's still kicking and screaming. And yeah, and I guess that's why I'm here. But it's us as a group, you know, and they know that. They know that we're rebels up here, and we don't live in the city because we love the culture of the city, but we're a way to escape what the city represents, which is chemicals and pollution and violence and, you know, all of that. So it's no wonder we're free thinkers up here. Anyway, enough said.
Thank you, Ray. I really hope you do get in. You know what's really interesting is that in many of the indigenous cultures around the world, which have been caretakers for these entheogens and plants and toads and substances, it's the tribal people, and if you could call them the politicians of their tribe, which also take the entheogens and then work on behalf of not just their community, but how they work in concert with nature and their relationship with nature. And there's a current thrust in South America. I know they're giving ayahuasca, or they're testing giving ayahuasca to people in jails. So we said to us, and I thought, maybe if you get into the Senate, Ray, you can like be the bridge between, you know, instead of giving it to prisoners, we'll give it to the politicians. You be a bridge and get the entheogens to the people who are making these decisions, who really need their consciousness woken up. That would be great. We'll talk later.
I thought I'd share with you just a magical story again about the Sikopai and the Sequoia, which I heard only about 6 months ago, and it's really kind of shaken my world in a sense, is that the two worlds that we've been talking about here tonight are they're quite different, you know, and this process is really building bridges between these unseen worlds and this physical world. But I was speaking to Sparrow, who you're going to go and see soon, and he was telling me that just recently he was drinking with the Sequoia, and one of the elder shaman came back from a night of visionary experience with a plant in his hand, a new plant, a plant that he brought back from a world that's not physical. And it was a gift, and he said, this is kind of like a next generation healing medicine. And so for me, what was really transformative is just the idea that maybe humans as curators on the planet, this is our job, to actually dream and ask our ancestors, these unseen worlds, to provide us with these tools, you know, and maybe the toads and the yahe and what we're calling entheogens are actually gifts from these unseen worlds that we as curators can actually allow ourselves to receive and bring them into the world. And whether they means or ideas, or whether they become physical access bridges like a plant, the idea that that's even possible is really mind-blowing to me.
Yes, we have bridged a few worlds tonight, haven't we? So I'm just going to wind it up a little bit now. I want to show Rack's promo video just before we break for some dinner and chai, and then there's some more films afterwards. Ray coming down to Machu Picchu with the San Pedro and ayahuasca and preparing it. It's fantastic. I just looked at it again today. It's beautiful. But just to reiterate, tomorrow, for those who do vote and play in the system, it's obvious that you know, well, for me anyway, that the major political parties, you know, Labor, Liberal, National, don't serve our interests, certainly that of the planet. The Greens being, you know, good on a range of issues. Yet I feel that the independents really need to, that's where the power lies. That's where Ray has got a lot of chance of having some influence here. So just on the practicality of that, when you get your big sheet of paper which is the Senate. The small one is just for the local electorate, but the big bit of paper is Senate. You just got to number, at least 1 to 6 above the line. And I would recommend, obviously Ray first, and then if he doesn't get in, which who knows how it goes, but if you can then vote either another independent as well, like the Animal Rights Party or whatever other independent you feel, and then eventually then the Greens, and then put whatever Labor, Liberal, National after that. So what it means is, rather than just voting straight for the Greens, if you put an independent first, if they get enough votes up to get a quota, then they get elected. If they don't get enough votes to get a quota, then your vote gets passed on in its complete value to the next person on your preference list, which may be the Greens anyway. So you're not losing a vote by voting, for Ray or anyone else first. If they don't get elected, your vote gets passed on to the Greens. So just want to clarify that for those who don't know. We're bridging the worlds tonight, so
yeah, because I didn't answer Ali's question after all. Can I explain why perhaps I'm not standing for the Hemp Party? One of the reasons is because they are a bunch of stoners, to be honest. They're not professional enough and they're not political. And Greg Chip was. That's one reason. I love them all and I have stood for them before. But the other was they aligned themselves to the Sex Party, who I really respect, Fiona Patton, and she thinks much like we do, and a libertarian, except she shot herself in the foot for most of us by saying that she was for vaccinations. So the Hemp Party have aligned themselves with a party that is for vaccinations. And also the Sex Party is also all for, X-rated videos, porn. They're the ones that brought on the big tobacco with synthetic cannabinoid, even though Happy Herbs, because of the name, we get blamed for it and all that. But nevertheless, it was the sex shops that really routed the synthetic cannabinoid, which is only an indication of the evil of prohibition anyway, because synthetic cannabinoids came about because they were legal and pot wasn't. And all the time I was rooting for the fact, yeah, good, let's show up these drug laws for what they are. However, it was the sex shops that the Sex Party represent who exploited that and a lot of other things. So they stand for a lot of great values, but being against, being for vaccinations was not a good one, and also being primarily concerned with X-rated videos is also not a good party to align yourself with. So that's why I would say, yeah, put them second or third choice, but I wouldn't put them first choice because the Hemp Party sold out basically. Okay, well, thanks, Ray. I think everyone knows what to do tomorrow. We've got a question from Dudley. The only thing is, Dudley, we've got all the cameras and mics over here, so you're going to have to either yell out or... Yeah, can you just yell out something really?
Yeah, just in New South Wales, they are not aligned with the Sex Party. They have separated themselves from it. Just people need to know that. New South Wales, they're not connected.
Okay, so that was in New South Wales, they're not aligned. Okay, so I just want, I'm going to close off by showing Rack's little promo film for his new series. And Rack, can you just introduce it, and I'll get it ready to play.
Thank you. I guess this is both a natural repercussion of smoking the 5-Meo DMT from the Sonoran Desert Toad last year, and also a fruition of what the last 8 or so years have been working with ayahuasca and publishing the book and the film My Awakenings, and realizing it was more than just about ayahuasca, that there was a global shamanic resurgence where Westerners across the world were training with Indigenous people who had the lineage, both of the tribal support and of the planet and the plants, and that there's a larger pattern at work here. And so last July, mere months after smoking the toad in April, I ended up in Mexico on a shoestring budget. And this is the first episode I'll be launching in October or so. It'll be on online video on demand, and the website is live now. It's called Shamans of the Global Village. And this is episode 1 with Octavio Rettig and the Sonoran Desert Toad. And I hope you enjoy it.
I should say I would still vote for Ray first.
No, it's all right. You can leave that. Doesn't matter. I just got to get this film up.
Indigenous people across the globe have used sacred plants and animal medicines for millennia to heal, illuminate, and connect them to the web of life. Traditionally, each culture had a healer that works on behalf of their patients, what we call the shaman. And now we find ourselves in a global village. Is it any wonder that we need our own healers that understand the deep power and sacredness these ancient earth medicines can reveal? My name is Rakrazan, and I'm an author, filmmaker, and shamanic facilitator. Join me as I interview and sit in ceremony, experiencing healing medicines with Western shamans across the globe. Watch firsthand as I document a modern shamanic resurgence being passed on from indigenous tribes to a new wave of medicine people working in the 21st century. This is Shamans of the Global Village.
Okay, well, that's intermission. I'd just like to thank the people who came up on the panel again. If you could all put your hands together for them for sharing. Yeah, fantastic. It's also the end of the live stream, so see you later, whoever was out there watching. And we've got some really nice dinner happening out there, and some chai and cake. So I'm going to have probably about 25 minutes or so for a little break. We can have something to eat and a little drink, and then after that, I'm going to show probably about half of the video that I made with Ray, about 10-minute video on Machu Picchu and our journey. And then there's another, this is normally the time when I do the Migaloo 2 launch. You probably know another hat that I wear is whale conservation, and not just conservation, but communication as well. So towards the end of the night too, I'm going to just give a little bit of a talk about what's going on with the whales and the dolphins and sharks too. So that'll be happening a little bit later as well. I've got some pretty amazing video too of some beautiful connection that we had, and I also want to talk a little bit about this whale stranding that happened yesterday, a baby whale stranding that happened just down near Lennox. That's pretty amazing what happened. So I'm just going to stop the broadcast now, and